hard to imagine the damage one pig, let alone 30 or 40, can do in one night.
Salter's job is to trap the hogs, using rigs like this that he can trigger through a smartphone once the hogs show up on a game camera.
For years, farmers have fought an endless battle against wild boars, powerful, clever animals that destroy crops, tear through fields, and cause chaos wherever they go. Every trap failed, every fence was broken, and every night brought new losses. But then, something incredible happened. A group of determined farmers came together and discovered a brilliant new way to fight back, one that doesn't rely on force, but on intelligence and patience. Using smart technology and a deep understanding of the boar's behavior, they created a method so effective that it's leaving experts amazed. The farmers are tricking thousands of wild boar, and it's pure genius. Join us as we uncover how modern farmers are using brains over brawn to trap thousands of wild boars in the smartest way ever imagined. The boar invasion problem. Across farmlands in Europe, Asia, and even parts of the United States, farmers are facing an unexpected enemy that never seems to rest wild boars. These animals might look like oversized pigs, but they are far more destructive than most people realize. Every night, they sneak out of the forests and move silently into fields, tearing through crops, breaking fences, and ruining months of hard work within a few hours. Some farmers have compared the damage to that of a natural disaster, because once a group of wild boars arrives, nothing green is left standing by sunrise. What makes this problem worse is how smart and adaptable these animals are. They learn fast, remember danger, and quickly change their patterns. Some herds even start traveling at night just to avoid humans. It's not just about crops anymore. Wild boars also dig up soil, destroy irrigation systems, and spread diseases that can harm livestock. In countries like Germany and Japan, the losses caused by boars each year reach into millions of dollars. They multiply quickly too, and a single female can give birth to several piglets at once, which means their numbers keep growing even when people try to control them. Many farmers have tried everything: electric fences, traps, and even loud noises, but nothing seems to stop them for long. In some places, people even formed night patrols to chase the animals away, but the boars keep coming back, stronger and smarter each time. That's when a few clever farmers decided to change their game plan completely. Instead of fighting force with force, they came up with an idea so creative that it's now being called one of the smartest tricks in modern farming. And what they discovered next completely changed how people handle wild boars forever. Failed methods that didn't work. At first, most people didn't believe the new idea would work. After all, farmers had already tried everything that seemed possible, from tall fences to high-tech alarms, yet the boars always found a way around them. Some climbed over barriers, others dug under them, and a few even learned to push open gates together as a group. It felt almost like these animals were mocking human intelligence. Farmers were tired, frustrated, and running out of options. The damage kept increasing, and some even thought of giving up their land because the battle felt impossible to win. The biggest problem with the old methods was that they were too predictable. Boars quickly figured out patterns. When they heard loud sounds or saw bright lights, they simply changed their path or returned at another time. Traditional traps caught one or two animals, but never the whole herd. That was a huge mistake because the rest would learn from it and never fall for the same trick again. They were smart enough to watch and remember, almost as if they were studying human behavior. This made ordinary methods useless in the long run. But here's where things took a surprising turn. A group of farmers decided to turn the boars' intelligence against them. Instead of chasing them away, they used patience and technology. They began studying how the herds moved when they came to feed and how they reacted to certain sights and smells. Using this information, they created something completely different, a system that would trap entire groups at once without scaring them off. The trick didn't rely on force, it relied on understanding. The genius trick farmers are using. The genius behind the new trap lies in how simple yet clever it is. Farmers realized that wild boars were creatures of habit. They returned to the same spots every night to feed. So, instead of setting up random traps that scared them away, the farmers built feeding zones that looked safe and familiar. They started by placing food in open areas, allowing the boars to eat freely for several nights. The animals soon began to trust the place completely, visiting it regularly without fear. What they didn't know was that they were being carefully watched the entire time through motion cameras and sensors hidden nearby. Once the boars got comfortable, the farmers activated the second part of their plan. They installed a large circular trap made of strong but quiet panels that could close instantly. The system was connected to a camera feed, and farmers could control everything from their phones. When the whole herd entered the feeding zone, the trap would drop at just the right moment, surrounding them before they could escape. The best part was that the trap only activated when all the animals were inside, ensuring none were left to learn or warn others. This idea wasn't built overnight. It came from a mix of patience, research, and trial and error. Farmers worked closely with wildlife experts and even engineers to design traps that blended perfectly with nature. Some systems used infrared sensors to detect movement in the dark, while others relied on smart cameras powered by solar energy. It was quiet, efficient, and completely humane. The animals were captured safely and later moved away from farmlands. Over time, this invention became more than just a simple trap. It turned into a full farming system powered by intelligence and timing. Many farmers added features like live tracking, automatic gates, and alert systems that sent instant notifications when herds were nearby. They even customized the feeding patterns, using sounds and scents that attracted boars naturally without creating suspicion. In some cases, artificial intelligence analyzes footage to recognize herd behavior and suggest the perfect capture moment, almost like having a digital farm assistant on standby. The results spoke for themselves. Within months of using this strategy, wild boar invasions dropped dramatically. Crops were finally safe and farmers could sleep peacefully for the first time in years. It also reduced the need for dangerous control methods like poisons or guns, protecting other wildlife from harm. The quiet success of this approach quickly spread across borders, inspiring new collaborations between farmers, tech experts, and conservationists. What made this approach truly amazing was how it turned intelligence into the main weapon. Farmers didn't just stop the boars, they outsmarted them. And the results were so stunning that scientists began studying this method as a model for future animal control systems. How the trick actually works. As the new trapping method spread across farmlands, the results were nothing short of incredible. For the first time in years, farmers were finally able to rest without worrying about waking up to destroyed fields. What began as a small experiment quickly turned into a full-blown revolution in modern farming. Entire communities started working together, sharing knowledge, and improving the technique with their own ideas. What made it so special was how simple it looked from the outside, yet how deeply it connected to animal behavior and smart technology. Every detail of the trap was designed to make the boars feel comfortable and unthreatened. Farmers learned that wild boars, though destructive, were highly social and curious animals. They trusted each other more than anything else, and one relaxed boar could convince a whole group to follow. So, the farmers used that trust to their advantage. By placing food in the same location night after night, the animals slowly grew bold. Cameras hidden in trees or mounted on poles recorded every movement, and soon patterns began to appear where they entered, how they reacted, and what sounds made them nervous. Instead of scaring the boars away, the farmers allowed them to feel safe. That was the genius part. The trap became a part of their routine, a normal stop on their nightly adventure. When the system finally triggered, the boars barely had time to realize what was happening. The panels dropped swiftly and quietly, creating a barrier all around them. No loud bangs, no panic, just a calm, smooth capture. Some farmers described it as watching nature walk into its own clever trick. The impact was massive. In just a few months, thousands of wild boars were captured without harm. Farms that had once been ruined were now producing crops again. Families who had nearly given up began to see hope. In places like Texas and rural France, news spread fast. Videos of the traps went viral, showing herds being safely caught in a single motion. It wasn't just about saving food anymore. It became a story of human creativity and patience defeating one of the smartest wild animals on Earth. But what made this discovery even more powerful was how it used technology in a natural way. The traps were often powered by solar panels, connected to mobile networks, and controlled through smartphone apps. Farmers could watch live footage of the feeding zone, decide when to close the trap, and even track how many animals were caught. This meant no more wasted effort or false alarms. Everything happened with precision and timing. It was farming upgraded with a touch of modern science, and it worked beautifully. Scientists soon joined in, fascinated by the success. They realized that the farmers had unknowingly created a perfect example of behavioral psychology in action. By observing and adapting to the boar's habits, humans had used their intelligence, not aggression, to find balance with nature. Researchers noted that similar techniques could help control other invasive animals too, like coyotes or feral goats, without hurting them or disturbing the ecosystem. It showed that understanding animal behavior was far more effective than trying to dominate it. The best part was how communities began to unite over this shared mission. Farmers who once struggled alone were now exchanging data and footage online, helping each other improve their setups. Some local governments even began supporting the idea, offering funding to expand these systems across affected regions. What started as frustration and despair turned into teamwork, innovation, and hope. The emotional relief was clear in their stories. People finally had peace of mind after years of sleepless nights guarding their land. One inspiring story came from a small village where the farmers had been losing nearly half their harvest every year. After adopting the new trapping system, they captured over 300 boars in just a few weeks. The change was so dramatic that children could finally play near the fields again without fear. For them, this wasn't just about protecting crops, it was about restoring life, safety, and stability in their community. The lesson behind it all is powerful. Sometimes the smartest solutions don't come from expensive machines or government programs. They come from observation, patience, and creativity. These farmers didn't wait for help. They studied their enemy, learned its ways, and turned that knowledge into victory. By doing so, they proved that even the biggest challenges can be overcome when people choose to think differently. Results and the future of smart farming. The success of the trap caught the attention of scientists, engineers, and even tech companies who saw the potential to make it even more advanced. Soon, what began as a simple setup on small farms evolved into a high-tech system combining cameras, motion sensors, drones, and artificial intelligence. It wasn't just about trapping wild boars anymore. It was about creating a complete defense network that could predict, detect, and control their movements before they even reached the fields. For farmers who once fought a losing battle, this was the beginning of a brand new era of smart farming. With drones flying over farmlands, farmers could now see exactly where the herds were hiding during the day. Thermal imaging made it easy to spot groups moving at night, even through thick forests or tall grass. These drones worked hand in hand with ground sensors placed near crops, detecting vibrations and movement when animals approached. The moment a herd entered the danger zone, the system sent alerts straight to the farmer's phone. It was quick, silent, and incredibly effective. Many compared it to having an invisible fence powered by technology and intelligence instead of steel and noise. Artificial intelligence took things a step further. Using the data gathered from cameras and drones, AI programs began learning the habits of each herd, where they traveled, how often they came, and how they reacted to changes in the environment. The The system could even predict when and where the next attack might happen, giving farmers time to prepare. This predictive ability made the battle feel almost effortless. Instead of reacting to damage after it happened, farmers were finally one step ahead of the boars. It felt like turning chaos into control. But it wasn't just technology doing the magic, it was the partnership between humans and innovation. Farmers shared live feeds, images and data online with wildlife experts who helped them understand what the boars were thinking. Together, they noticed fascinating details. For example, how boars moved in small family units, how they avoided open areas under the moonlight, and how certain smells made them hesitate. These discoveries helped improve traps and defense systems even more. It was as if the farmers had become wildlife detectives, using knowledge instead of weapons to win. This collaboration also helped reduce unnecessary harm to nature. In the past, many control methods involved hunting or poison, which often affected other animals too. But this new system was different. It was clean, controlled, and humane. The goal wasn't to wipe out the species, but to restore balance between farmland and wildlife. Once caught, the boars were relocated to forest reserves far from human settlements. In some regions, wildlife officers tagged them with tracking devices to study their migration and prevent future invasions. For the first time, there was peace between people and the animals they had struggled against for generations. The financial benefits were enormous. In areas where farms used the system, crop loss dropped by more than 80%. Corn, rice, and vegetable farms that had been on the brink of collapse were thriving again. Families could focus on planting instead of guarding. Food prices in local markets stabilized because supply was no longer under constant threat. Beyond economics, it brought emotional relief to farmers who spoke about how they could finally sleep through the night without worrying about hearing grunts and crashes from their fields. One touching story came from a family farm in rural Poland. For years, they had suffered severe losses due to nightly boar raids. The father, who had almost given up, decided to try the new technology after watching a video online. Within weeks, his field was safe. He described the first night he saw the entire herd caught on camera. He didn't feel anger, just disbelief and gratitude. The boars were moved safely, and his crops finally survived to harvest. That moment marked a turning point, showing that innovation wasn't just for big cities. It could change the lives of rural families too. As news spread, governments began taking notice. Some countries introduced special programs to support farmers in adopting smart traps. Universities launched research projects to study how this new balance between technology and wildlife could shape the future of agriculture. Even conservationists, who once criticized control methods, praised this system for being both effective and humane. It was a rare example of progress where everyone won: humans, animals, and nature itself. The technology didn't stop evolving. Developers started integrating machine learning, allowing systems to adapt automatically without human control. Cameras could now distinguish between different animals, ensuring the traps activated only for wild boars and not for harmless creatures. Drones became more efficient, flying longer distances and sending real-time updates. Some advanced models even used scent technology to lure the boars naturally into designated areas, making the process smoother and faster. It was no longer a trap. It was an intelligent ecosystem that worked with nature, not against it. But beyond the gadgets and systems, there was something more profound happening. The farmers who once felt powerless discovered the value of patience and curiosity. They learned that understanding the enemy, even one covered in mud and tusks, could turn fear into mastery. It changed their entire view of farming. Instead of seeing animals as threats, they began to see them as part of a bigger picture that could be managed with respect and intelligence. Children grew up watching their parents use tablets and drones instead of shotguns, learning that the smartest weapon is always knowledge. The success of these traps started inspiring new ideas beyond boars. Similar techniques were being tested to manage elephants damaging crops in Africa, or monkeys raiding fruit farms in Asia. The same principles of observation, prediction, and humane control were proving useful across the world. What began as a small idea from frustrated farmers had grown into a global example of smart coexistence between humans and wildlife. This new approach didn't just save crops, it sparked a movement. It showed that innovation doesn't always mean something complicated or expensive. Sometimes it's about blending simple observation with modern tools and compassion. Farmers became heroes of their own stories, not by fighting harder, but by thinking smarter. And the wild boars, once seen as unstoppable destroyers, unknowingly helped create one of the most brilliant advancements in sustainable farming. But even with all these victories, one question remained: what happens next? Could technology continue to outsmart nature? Or would the wild boars eventually evolve and adapt again? The farmers had won this round, but everyone knew the story wasn't over yet. Something new was already brewing, an even smarter, faster, and more surprising way to keep the balance between the wild and the fields. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.